Graham. All right, welcome back to Chicago's #1 property management live stream weekly. So, man, Tim, today, I don't know if you realize this. I don't think we realized this last time because we can't count. This is episode number 10.
Nice.
We did it. Most people don't make it to 10. I think it's like 3% make it to 10. So, we are of the.
I think we're at the point now at 10 that we can stop saying Chicago. I think we're the longest running in the country at this point. I don't know of anyone else doing lives out of all the. We'll double check when we go to New Orleans for the property manager conference, but I don't know anyone else that's been doing lives consistently like this. So
yes, for sure, man. I love it, man. Thanks for doing this with me. I've been enjoying it. I actually look forward to this. I saw something in my calendar when I woke up this morning. I was looking at my day, and I thought I saw I got to hang out with you this afternoon, and I'm like, man, hopefully he feels the same way, or hopefully he's not dreading it. So,
absolutely.
Well, man, we got big news, man. Breaking news. I don't know if we got that breaking news flash thing, but City of Chicago, talk about rental license. I mean, give us a breakdown of what you read on that.
Yeah. So our everyone's favorite mayor, Brandon Johnson, has proposed and is pushing for not only rental inspections but rental licensing. So the behind the scenes rumor that I've heard is he saw New York starting to do some things and Mondami trying to do some inspections, and so he got some FOMO and nothing is official yet. It's still it's still got a long path ahead, but what they want to try to do is, no matter what, and a lot of the villages do this, right? Is whether you're doing Section 8 or market, you're now going to have to, if this gets passed, you're going to have to get an inspection, pay annual fee, get inspected annually. I honestly think that we're gonna see. I think in the long term, it's not a terrible idea because there are some apartments that I have seen with potential buyers and walking through that in Chicago that haven't been touched in 30 years and have some issues. But I think in the short run, at least, we're going to see a lot of people losing housing in a city that we're already what's the number, 600,000, 60,000, some units short to house everyone. We're going to lose even more housing because they're going to find these illegal apartments that are around. They're going to find these. I showed I showed a building to a potential investor last week, and the tenant was trying to open the back door and had to pull a knife out to like get the back door unlocked because it did not work. So I think for some of that stuff, there's some good to come from it, that like we shouldn't have people living in places like that. But I think there's a lot more of that than we realize, and there's gonna be a lot of housing that we lose in the next year or two if that gets passed. I think a lot of basement apartments that aren't legal are going to go away.
Well, I looked forward to this topic with you because let's break this down though, because how practical is this, right? Now you have just call it 1 million rental units here in we'll just even say 500,000, right? And you have 500,000 units. That's a lot of manpower. That's a lot of staff. I mean, we barely get the city to do code violations on 10% of the properties like efficiently. So is this going to start off as just like a fee that everyone's got to pay and register, and then so it's more of an instant kind of money grab, and they might start doing inspections later? Where do you think that? I mean, what do you think about that?
So one, I did a quick AI overview. I don't know how accurate AI is going to be on this, but it looks like we are at 624,000 renter occupied households in Chicago. So there's a lot. It's a good question. And again, as with most things in politics, when they put out laws like this and put out ideas like this, none of that is flushed out. So A, where would the money come from? B, we're at a point now, and I know it's not technically the city that runs CHA, but it's city adjacent, and and the city has some override with it. It's taking 45 days to get an inspection for someone to move in for CHA. and that's maybe 10% or 5% of the market. So now if you're saying that everyone that moves in a given month is going to have an inspection, I don't think the market turns at all.
What happens? I mean, I think some of the second and third order effects for this, the big topic coming into April with the new ADU laws, the pilot program expanding to any alderman or any ward that doesn't opt out. Now all of a sudden, this brings in the conversation of garden units, apartment units, units that are quote unquote non-conforming right now. Man, are people either going to have to fly under the radar and try not get away with it, or if you register it now, you're on the radar of that, and the what's coming out next month to convert your unit is not a cheap thing. A lot of what we talked about in the podcast a couple weeks ago is you're not going to convert a unit for under 100 grand. So what's going to happen with that?
I think it's going to be twofold. I think just like there is now, you're going to have a lot of people renting and not telling and hoping that census doesn't catch up to them and recording it as vacant, which, by the way, if you're incentivizing landlords to lie and report something as vacant, that also means that they're going to get cheaper property taxes. So it's even more beneficial for them to lie. So we're going to lose property tax money, I think, on that. We're going to lose just you're going to see a lot more people under the radar trying to rent. And then on the flip side of that, I think you're going to see tenants that are going to feel empowered to turn those landlords in when something doesn't go right. When a landlord charges a late fee or tries to start an eviction, you're going to see retaliation from these tenants where that's going to be a huge thing for them to go after and say, hey, but what happens? Here's a question for you. What do you think happens though if I try to hide it and I do go to and do try to do an eviction? Is the court going to rule me as like, what do you mean? Who are you evicting? There shouldn't be anyone renting here.
I think that'd be something that the tenant representation, their attorneys or the free counsel that they have offered to them in those situations, once they get wind as that, using that as a defense, that will be something that will come up. But it's usually something that doesn't catch on right away. But yeah, that's another, call it third. That's a third order type issue in that scenario. So, but what that does to call it conservative people or people who don't like to push the edges, now it's like, all right, I'm not going to rent that apartment for $900 or $1,000 in the basement, and I'm just going to kind of sit on it, and now that just takes housing out. So that's probably the biggest second order I would see in this whole if they're going to move to something like this.
So again, yeah, I think it takes housing out. I think again, what was the whole point of the whole 606 rules or the other half of it, right? We talk a lot about the notifying tenants and giving them first right of refusal on the 606 law.
We don't talk about preservation you're referencing.
Northwest Preservation, yeah. We don't talk about as much the additional fees and the additional restrictions on converting 2 and 3 flats to single family residents. And that was the real big thing that they were trying to stop in areas like Logan Square and Ricker Park, because housing is getting harder and harder to find and people were buying it and turning it into single families. Are we going to start seeing that more? Are we going to see people that say it's not worth me upgrading this apartment, these 3 apartments, upgrading them to code, quote unquote, or getting them nice enough to pass inspection and then go and pay a licensing fee when I could just turn this into a single family home and sell it for 800 grand or 700 grand?
Or duplex it down.
Duplex it down.
Yeah.
So you have that part of it. And then on the flip side, the people that do stay, landlords aren't going to go ahead and pay these fees and just eat the low profit that they have. Guess what? That's going to get passed down to the tenants.
What do you know about this? How are there any aldermen that have support of this? Is there anything more than this is being announced? I've not read it as much as I think you have. So I'm curious to know what is anyone's backing.
I don't have a full grasp on it in that sense. There doesn't seem to be a whole, like, I haven't seen any aldermen pushing it. It seems to be a Brandon Johnson thing. But I also think that it feels like Brandon Johnson has been more willing to push his power around lately. Like I think he sees the writing on the wall that he's losing the next election unless he does something that is drastically shows as helping and or doing stuff. So I mean, he just vetoed the alderman passed a couple days ago to slow down the wage increases for servers, and he vetoed that. So he's becoming a little more empowered, and I think he's somewhere between a lame duck and knowing that something has to change drastically if he has any chance to be reelected. So it's him pushing it, but he might be willing to do more to get his ideas through at this point um, of his mayorship, or whatever you want to call it, of his term. That's the right word.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I'm curious to see how that'll play out and where that's going to go. Listen, I do not think that's a horrible way for a city to grab revenue. I just think there's so many other in a stable city that doesn't have a housing crisis. I don't think it's horrible. Like if you could grab $100 from every owner every year, like 100, $200, it's bearable for owners. And then the inspection kind of sucks. I think for the city to run that at a profit, right? I think that'd be tough for them to do. But if they just put a fee on there and we paid that, call it that tax, now you're at least taxing the right people, at least in that sense. And hopefully that money then goes towards supporting something, maybe that goes towards moving the eviction process along faster, or helping homeless, or putting it having more funds available for people that do have issues. So there could be a spin to this that could work.
If I had any faith in the government to do that, yeah. I mean, like a lot of these, and this is why a lot of these look good on paper. It looks like, hey, we're going to start this fund and then build housing, but then the government goes and screws it up by, spending I think $500,000-$600,000 a unit to build. Like they're supposed to take the money from the Northwest Preservation funds too to build housing. Those those contracts that they're signing and having people build with are insane. Like they could be building 4 or 5 times the amount of properties if they were just using average contractors, but instead they're using the people that the city has connections with and funneling money to, and they're paying 3-4x what it should cost to build. So I like the idea in theory. I just don't know how it will work, and I don't know if there's going to be unintended consequences of just more and more landlords leaving or turning it into single family homes. I've always been of the component, and I unfortunately don't have a big enough ear or anyone listening that would actually make this. But the people that you should be taxing are the people with all, like, there's so many vacant storefronts in Chicago right now that are being kept vacant because they're getting tax discounts, and because if they rent it, if they keep it on the market for 18,000 a year, the property's worth X. But if they lower it to 15,000, they would lose value in the property. And so these landlords that are parking money, and a lot of them are international landlords that are parking money. If we just tax them, I think we could raise a lot of money. Just as throwing out a campaign suggestion for whoever's running for mayor, that go after the foreigners and the people that are just parking their money in Chicago and leaving things vacant, making the villages worse.
Well, something like that could force people to convert, maybe not in the suburbs, but in the city, storefronts in areas that just don't need more storefronts to residential additional units as well too. So there could be something there. All right, we're gonna get positive on something here. So it's we've had some nice weather these last couple of days. This week it's beautiful out right now.
Yeah. Have you looked at the weather for the next 4 hours?
No, it's supposed to storm though. I like storms, so it's all good. It's warm, it's bearable. But
I forget you're not south of I-80. I am.
No, you guys are supposed to get hit harder today, so heads up on that. But I like storms, so I'm excited about that. And I'm going to Florida tomorrow, so I'm a little hype about the weather in general. But weather's nice. People are getting out more. What meetups are you going to? What meetups can we refer to landlords that you suggest out there that other landlords listening here can get some networking with some other landlords?
Yeah. So the one by me that I'm involved with that are ran by great people is called. It's funny because I just actually had the guy that runs it on my podcast yesterday. So it abbreviates to SCORES, but he warned me not to Google that. But it's the South Side Conduit of Successful Real Estate Investors meetup. Which having an abbreviation for a name that long would be awesome. But they're every fourth Tuesday or every third Tuesday in Mokina, or in Frankfurt, technically in Frankfurt on the Southwest. And then the other ones that I've always been a huge supportive of is MBOA. And they have tons. I'm involved a lot with the Southwest, which is over by the Midway area. They meet. I know there's the Roger Park one and a couple other ones that have a huge number of different locations. So wherever you're at in the city, you can find one there. How about you? Where have you been going?
Well, that's good. So I'm going to, on in response to that, I'm going to put in there the on straightupchicagoinvestor.com. We have all the meetups that we know of, but we don't have scores. So that's I'll send you that link, and hopefully we can get that one added, or you could send it to whoever you know from scores, and they can get it added, and we can promote that as well too. But I also sent a link of all the different MBOA groups. I think I might be out of date by one or two because they keep adding them. But there's actually links to all the different individual MBOA groups, from Rogers Park to Southside Community, Southside Builders Association, Greater Austin Development, GATA, Lakeview Developers, Edgewater, Uptown, YIBA. So I'll put that out there for everybody. You know what? A lot of people, when they come on the podcast, a lot of what they, a lot of what comes out in their messaging is they contribute their success to networking. And some other guy that's a few years ahead of them gave them this one tip. And that's what a lot of what you and me are on here for, right? Our goal is to help people, maybe 5-7 years behind us, 10 years behind us, and help them understand kind of what they can do, what they shouldn't do, and just what the hell's going on. You and me been talking. We try not to get political. We do have our own opinions at this point, but we just want people to know what they need to know to make the best decisions.
Yeah, and it's, to your point, it's hard not being political when you're involved with real estate. And I think there's a line that we try to do where we're trying not to necessarily give an opinion on if it's good or bad, but you have to break down what's going on because it's super important. And speaking of other breaking news and good news, so we talked about last week, and this is how fast everything changes, right? Last week we were talking about the new FinCEN ruling that came down, that started on the 15th of March, that if you put your building into an LLC, that you have to fill out a form and report everything to FinCEN. Well, just like the law that they tried to do last year, Supreme Court eventually found a case that shut it down. So as of right now, it has been shut down 1 week after being active. They're really batting 1,000 over there, trying to put these laws in.
What's so funny? You and me talked about that on the show. I think it was 2 weeks ago, and I've never heard of it. And what we had to do, I had a closing that day coincidentally, and I got off with you, and I was talking with Lance, and we had to jump through hoops because the title company kept sending us documents, and they're saying we're filling it out wrong, and we had to but it's all FinCEN type stuff that totally within hours of you and me talking and me learning about it, I didn't realize that we were actually jumping through hoops to try to, because the title companies got out in front of it and wanted to start getting that paperwork going, even though that's great news, it got struck down. But I totally got caught up in the minutia of that hours after I first learned about it from you.
Yeah, no, it's, I feel it's the, what is it, yellow car syndrome or whatever they call it. Like once you buy a yellow car, all of a sudden you never notice any yellow cars. Now they're all over. Like the second you heard about it, now it's happening to you. It's how it happens. Speaking about getting in front of things, something that we probably should mention. And again, this hasn't been fully ruled on, but they're right now they're taking. It's from HUD, and they're taking opinions or whatever you want to call it. They have a call for investors to write up how it will affect them and all that stuff. But I'm also seeing a lot of people get ahead of it. There's probably going to be a law passed here from HUD's recommendation in the next 6 months that is going to change the way we advertise rentals and how we can what the ability to put a rental price on a site. It's going to eventually have to include all the fees. So our software, do you use AppFolio, Mark, or no? Or what are you guys using?
Yeah, we use AppFolio.
So I don't know. I know you guys may not syndicate through it, but I don't know if you saw the new pop-up, but they now have a total fee field that you can put in that will syndicate everywhere. So if you're, charging utility package or charging for internet or for insurance, you want to make sure that you're, again, this isn't the law yet, but it's 90% going to be there. So might as well start altering it and figuring out how to do it. But you want to be able to start advertising or figure out how to advertise the total rent price or the total price, which is rent plus everything else included. And I think that's going to be a big thing here that national level. It pretty much all started when Greystone got sued for not showing a bunch of fees and then charging afterwards and not refunding people and all that stuff. So
Great star.
there,
Great
there's
star. Jason Wag. We want to make sure Jason Wagner doesn't think you
oh
get sued.
sorry.
Great star.
What I say, Greystone?
Yeah. That's Jason Wagner's
Greystone
company.
is a good company to buy things. Greystar is the ones that run all the 4,000, 5,000 unit buildings throughout the country.
They got like almost 800,000 units or some crazy number like that.
Yeah, and what they were doing, just to be clear, what they were doing is they were putting the rent price. Someone would apply, and they'd pay the $500 deposit, and they go, "Oh, here's your lease." So instead of it being, you applied for a $2,000 rental, your lease is $3,000 a month because you didn't add this fee and that fee and this fee and that and all these things we have to add. So it's $3,000 a month, and then when someone backed out, they wouldn't refund the $500 deposit. So because of that, HUD's coming down pretty hard on landlords, I think, over the next few months.
Yeah, I think we started. So it's past where all the bigger companies had a shift and do something with the FTC recently, and we started following those rules too. But it sucks. It sucks when we have a property. It sucks when everyone's not doing it, because I think before we all, I don't know if you call it got away with or toyed with, it's like it's $2,400, and then in the details it says, but you have to pay for $200 parking. So really the rent's $2,600, and that's kind of what we're talking about here. But now all of a sudden you're at $2,600. We're marking it, but then everyone else marking their stuff at $2,400 and still doing that. So once everyone's doing it, I'm totally. I think it's the right thing. It's fair. It's just it's a struggle right now because it's just not fair that everyone's not doing it. So same with utilities, right? So we get a lot of times where it's like, hey, utilities are on the owner's meter, so you're going to charge $100 or $180 for electric and gas a month. But now you have to put that in the top line, which that was just a detail below. So. Yeah, it's going to get tricky. And once it passes, I'm excited that if it's going to pass, I guess I'm excited that everyone will have to follow that rule. And there's pretty strict consequences. When you mess with the FTC, like we complain about HUD, we complain about the city of Chicago, FTC doesn't care. They just send you a fine and multiply it by a number that you don't even realize you did, or you have to prove it otherwise. So you can't mess with them.
Kyle's asking about, is it just monthly fees or is it moving fees too? Yeah, you got to disclose all that. So I mean, it's gonna come down to, they want in your ad before they apply. Like there's gonna be, I think, again, right now they have a letter that they wrote or that they're writing to Congress or whatever that lays everything out that they want to see happen. Congress hasn't written the law yet, but generally when HUD writes something, Congress will do what they say. So they want to make sure that when someone pays $70 to apply, they already know exactly how much they need to pay up front, how much they need to pay monthly. All that stuff needs to be laid out super easy for them to see on the top line.
And the letter that the FTC sent, I think it was like 8 months ago, was to the top 10 or 15 property management softwares, even like the Tenant Turbo of the world, so that self-managers use. Saying like, hey, this is coming, so figure out how your tech's going to work for this, because your clients aren't going to be able to use it if it doesn't follow these rules. So they even got ahead of that, which was surprising. So
yeah,
it's not bad. It's full disclosure, right? And we're in real estate, so we're used to having to disclose everything. And as long as it's an even playing field, I don't care.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. I think it's the problem is that I think the reason it became a race to the bottom to advertise the cheapest price, and that's why I think a lot of these fees showed up, to be honest, is if I can advertise a $1,200 apartment, get you in, show it to you, and then tell you it's $1,500,
bait and switch,
you still might sign. But if you're not looking for a $1,500 apartment, you're never going to sign. I saw you posted a video. I want to dig in a little bit, since we're talking about renting, about the photos and the first few sentences of your listings. just the importance of the order of them and sort of your opinion on that and what you're putting up in that first few sentences.
Yeah, so I think in this attention economy, and we all have short attentions, you and me included. You know, if a lot of times you see people put pictures in the order of they walk in the house. So like, I know we're guilty of it sometimes. The first one's the entryway or the little corridor outside the door. It's like no, you got to put that first picture be a pretty damn good looking of your kitchen, your $60,000 kitchen, make it that, or your 4,000 square foot veranda or whatever it might be. Like, have your best pictures in between 1, 2, 3, and 4. And even if you on MLS, you have to put a exterior picture as the first picture. But if you're not marking on the MLS, you don't have to make the outside of your building the first picture. So keep that in mind. That was the one point I had on there. And then the details. One thing that AI has brought into writing up these scripts or these descriptions is they put all these damn comfy words. I hung a sign on our wall the other day saying, do not use these 5 words in our listings. It was like comfortable, convenience, like all these like BS filler words. They just drive me crazy. Conveniently located. So it's just ambiance. Like no one cares about that.
Mm-hmm.
Those are words realtors use to make their listings look bigger over the years, including myself. And I just hate it. So very fact-based and as far as the paragraph goes, your details, those 3 or 4, the first line should be the 3 or 4 top things. We always do 3,000 square feet, 4 bedrooms, central AC, and parking, and then you start your paragraph. So it's like these are the 4 things that I want to make sure that if you're going to look at my listing, you don't miss, because these are going to be the things that are going to make break. Laundry and unit's the biggest one. Like so many times I see people have a beautiful laundry unit in an area that doesn't have laundry in the unit, and you have to say laundry. It says laundry available like on the 19th line of their long bloated description.
Mm-hmm. The other part that I'll add to that, I talked to a few Zillow reps a couple years ago at a Appfolio conference, and something that's huge is people are narrowing down their searches and putting in filters. So if you're putting something on Zillow and you're not going through the features and clicking the checkbox for every feature that your place has, someone's going to go search and they're not going to say, I want a 2-bed in Lincoln Park for $2,000. They're going to say, I want a 2-bed with a pool, with laundry in unit, with air conditioning. And you may think, well, everything has air conditioning, but if you don't check that box when you put it up, it's not coming up in search.
Yeah, I read a similar article. It wasn't related to real estate. It's related to sellers on Facebook Marketplace, because Facebook makes it really easy for you to pop 5, 6 pictures in, maybe a short video, have a couple headlines, and then you hit submit and you're online. But what you don't realize is it says add more detail. It drops down. There's like 25 other things you could do. And when people are searching, they're filling in those 25 other things, the search results. And if yours is blank, like you said, they're not coming up. So it's true the way that just we're searching for stuff or trying to narrow down things these days, that it's important that you put all the detail in there. That becomes SEO stuff too. Like, so when people are looking for unit laundry in the unit with AC in Logan Square, like those are, people just throw that into chat or Perplexity or Google even.
Yep.
And your listing's not coming up if you don't have that. You're not filling in that data in that extra spot that could totally be picked up by the search.
Yeah. And again, going back, we talked about this last week with AI, but I think it's huge to try to find your own listing on AI. Like, we're starting to get more and more people both on the management side finding us through AI and on the rental side. So if you put up a listing, try to get AI to show it to you. Tell AI, hey, I'm looking for a 3-bedroom in the Inglewood neighborhood, blah blah blah. See if yours pops up. If it doesn't, then you need to keep working on it or figure out why it's not popping up. And a lot of it's trial and error.
That's what we tell our clients all the time. Because I know you've probably been in this situation where you're working with a client. He thinks his place is worth 2,900, but you might say the start 2,900 and see, but he says he'll go down to 2,700 where it probably should be. And then when you start pushing to go drop down the price, like, well, I'm not seeing it here and I'm not seeing it here. It's like, well, search it. and search your 4-bedroom in Wicker Park and see where it comes up, and it always comes up right away. So I think once you have the algorithm down with your whatever tools you're using, I know we use between Rent Engine and Appfolio, like we're everywhere. and I imagine you are too. So very rarely is it they can't find it. It's they can't find it because their pricing for a 3-bedroom in that area stops at 27 or 2,800, and you want to be at 2,900. So those are some of the discussions we end up getting with clients.
No, absolutely. Price is huge, and at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that you could do wrong that won't get your stuff there or found. But if you're working with a management company or you've been doing rentals and own property for a while and you're doing it yourself, the odds are you're not doing any of those. The odds are the reason it's not renting is price. Like if you're doing the normal stuff, price is what will be the difference.
So I don't know if we talked down here, but it's pretty good conversation to bring up here again. We looked at everything we did last year in 2025, and it was like 74 or 76% of the time. We go with a range, a $200 range every time we go to list something. We usually start at the top, and then it ended up being like 50 some percent in the top 50% of that $200 range. And then overall, the whole, out of all of the ones we did, the 390, we hit that range 70, just call it 74% of the time. Now that 26%, when we missed, when it actually rented below the range, it was a minimum of 45 days. We averaged 19 days for the ones who were in range, and then anything that was I'm sorry, I take that back, even including that whole range. So across the board, our entire average was 19 days. It was 19 days for properties that allow pets, 21 days that don't allow pets. But we saw that right away. If we were off on the price, if we were over the range, it was automatically 45 days that it cost. So if you think about how much that costs a day, especially when you get to a $3,000 or $4,000 rental, if you just drop it $300, like, and you're staying and prevent yourself being on the market an extra 30 days, like that's it always just ends up being a math problem.
No, absolutely.
Shay threw in there 78% within the range, 48 days on the market without the range. So, all right, thank you, Shay.
There you go.
That's even more impressive. So I'll take it. I found that new feature where I can click it and it shows the comment right there.
It's huge, and I think you brought up something that I think a lot of people are still not caught up in the world that we live in yet. But pets, I don't know. I don't know if Pet Screening released anything new, but the last one I saw was like 68% of the market has a dog or a cat or something like that. Like it is a huge number of tenants that if you're not doing allowing pets, that you're missing out on.
Yes, it's like 51% have pets, and like another 18% might want to have a pet in the next 6 months. And those people will search for units that allow pets. So right away, 2/3 of the people that are looking will not be there. Now I gave you that stat, which was totally off to me. 19 days on average for people that allowed pets, 21 days that didn't. But when I dug into that data a little more, the people that didn't allow pets, that ended up being more than half of those ones that we were off in the range from. So they're renting for less money. We did twice as many price drops on the people that didn't allow pets than the people that allowed pets. So it ends up being a quicker shift. And obviously you're losing out on some of that. And if you think about this, so many rental units now have vinyl plank flooring. And it's so pet friendly.
Yeah, it's hard to scratch. Yep.
And going back one more thing, on pets, the pet is a direct correlation of the applicant. So every horror story you've ever heard from any landlord in your life, I bet you when you go back to the application, it was some sad story or some exception, or maybe they were overpriced and you got this guy that just needs down on his luck and you let him go in, but he's got 2 Dobermans and but he only had 550 credit score. Like those guys are the guys that wreck your house. You have a guy with 700 credit score, a beautiful golden retriever, 6-figure income. They're not going to mess up your house. So I always try to tell people kind of really look at it from that reality and not the fear side.
Yeah, no, for sure. One last thing on pets. What's your thoughts on monthly pet fee versus pet security deposit, pet move-in fee, like fees that you can charge additionally for pets?
Well, some of this stuff I end up having some restrictions if any of these laws on the federal or local level come on. So the upfront fees, I think anyone listening should get used to not charging or depending as much on the upfront fees and maybe doing more of a pet rent or a larger pet rent and less of upfront. Because I think you have, I think when you charge an upfront fee, it's usually thought about like, all right, that's for a 1-year lease. But if you get pet rent, then that's continual. If they're there for 6 years, you rather get that pet rent per month versus just a flat 350 up front or something like that. So we actually have what's his last name? John from Pet Screening. Hopefully, we're going to have him on the podcast here coming up this spring.
Nice, very cool, very cool. Yeah, pet screening is, if anyone doesn't know, I think for management companies, sometimes we just, because we're so used to using it, but they do a couple things. One of the reasons I think a lot of management companies use them is
maybe tell what it is real fast.
ESA.
Maybe say what. Maybe give a description of what petscreening.com is. I guess.
Yeah,
a lot of people don't know.
Gotcha.
You are very familiar.
Yeah. So pet screening is a site that you can send your applicants to. You can sign up, have an account, whatever it is. But they're going to do. They have a couple different sections that they do. One is compliance for ESA, and what's the other word I'm missing? The less common one nowadays. But animals that legally you have to accept, and making sure that the doctor notes are correct and all that stuff, which is super important to not run into legal issues. You can't deny an ESA dog. You can't deny a dog that they have because they have a disability, et cetera. And a lot of landlords get into hot water there, or they ask the wrong questions that you can't legally ask because of HIPAA laws. And then the other side to what you're saying about, the applicant, they're actually, for actual pets, they'll do an actual application to see. It's not really looking at the pet as much, but looking at a little bit at the breed and things like that, the danger and the risk. But they are more so looking at the owner. Did the owner get their vaccines? Did the owner get the pet's vaccines up to date? Are they, do they have all their shots? Are they, good owners, or are they, does the dog have a history of biting people? And it's going to run through all that stuff.
Yeah. So to be clear, how it works in the process. So you might be using Zillow applications right now, or you might be using whatever form, Turbo Tenant or Rent Ready. And what you could do is you could sign up for petscreening.com, and it's free to you. And the cool thing, the guy that John Bradford, the owner of this company, who we're going to try having on the podcast here this spring, he's actually a former, or maybe current even, congressman. So he's actually still in Washington lobbying to get some of this ESA BS that we all deal with, kind of having a little more less tenant friendly and landlord risky. But you have the applicant go fill out an application. They pay a fee, and the fee is going to they're going to give a score, a rating, a FIDO score, not a FICO score. It's 1 to 5. So
I love the wording.
Yeah. So you have that, and we actually have. They encourage too to have even people without pets currently still fill this out, because they have you sign off as somebody that doesn't have pets. It's free if you don't have pets. Sign off a whole bunch of language saying, if I do get a pet, if I do get this, like a whole bunch of things that cover you as a landlord that they're signing off on. If I do get, probably stuff that's not in your lease, most likely. So check out petscreen.com. We're not paid by them, or they're not even a sponsor. So, but just a cool product that any landlord, if you want to take some of that risk off of you, it's a great product to have.
Yeah. We have no sponsors, but if John is watching and wants to sponsor, happy to not. Couple comments that we got. Someone's asking about an ESA pig. I have not had an application for that, but I have actually seen an ESA pig in an airport getting on a flight with me. So
I've seen it. Yeah, we've had them too. We had an iguana ESA. So these end up getting these weird situations that you either I don't know. Really, what you end up doing is just saying, screw it, I'm not going to get in trouble, so I'm going to let them have it. I'm not going to charge for it. But I think some of the new legislation that potentially will come out in the upcoming years. One of the big things that John Bradford was fighting for was, right now, like, I think you or me can go get like a telemedicine video session done with somebody in Florida or someone in California, and you're up here in Illinois, and within an hour you pay $100 and you could get all this legitimate paperwork from a legitimate doctor. And what they're trying to do is put some more boundaries around that, where it has to be someone that's within your state, or a time you've been seeing this doctor for X amount of months. So they're trying to put
that's
some
the one
more.
I've seen is that they have to be ongoing care. Like you have to be seeing, whatever, whether it's quarterly or whatever. Like you can't just be like, I saw this guy once, he wrote me the prescription, and I'm never paying him again. It has to be like you're actually in care. Shay put out, you get out of it because a property is not zoned for livestock. Once they're ESA animals, you got to remember, by the law, they are no longer livestock, they're no longer pets. So all those rules disappear via the way that HUD has the laws currently written, which is, again, to your point, what they're trying to hopefully get changed here. But if you have an ESA chicken, that's no longer a chicken. That's
We ran into an issue recently with, it was a condo complex in Palatine that doesn't allow pets at all. And we had a guy come in that had an animal, an ESA animal. It was a legitimate animal too. Like we trust this guy. He was gonna be a great tenant. And the association pushed back. And the HOA association was one of the bigger companies. I won't name them. They made it so difficult to even just communicate with them on it that ultimately the guy got scared and frustrated. And ultimately he threatened some attorneys along the way, and then he backed out. But for us as a property manager, we're like, man, we'll try making it work. Or if you move in, we'll defend you, because we knew what was right. And the HOA property management company was just being either they didn't know what the hell they were doing, or the people that were working on it didn't know what the hell they're doing, but they just caused a whole bunch of grief. Ultimately, the guy backed out, place sat empty for another 30 days because it was right around Christmas. So that sucked. But you run into these issues with HOAs not realizing, a pig is a stretch, but even like a HOA that only allows cats, and now so you have a dog, or vice versa. They push back as hard as they can, and after you've already done all the screening, and they really make it difficult at times. So you gotta be careful for that.
Yeah, and the laws have to change. And one of the, I'm surprised this hasn't happened more. But I don't know if you remember, this is in 2020. I had to Google it to look it up, but there was a lawsuit, Cohen versus Clark, and basically the story, the way it went, is the guy had a no pet building. So the renter moved in because there was no pets allowed, and he knew he was allergic to dogs, so he didn't want to be in a house with pets, or a building with pets. And then another guy applied with an ESA dog, and the guy couldn't legally deny the ESA dog, so we let him move in. And then the guy across the hall had an allergic reaction and sued because he was in a no pet building that had an ESA dog. And the landlord lost that lawsuit and had to pay damages to the neighbor that was allergic to the dogs. So, yeah, we get in a lot with that. It's the same thing that I always say that is terrible with Chicago laws. You can't screen someone and deny them for past criminal activity, but if you put someone in your apartment and they start doing crimes, you're responsible for it. So there's a lot of laws like that are just back and forth. One other question we had, and I honestly don't have an answer to this because I have not looked into it, but maybe you do. Is it a good or bad idea to require pet damage protection or pet liability insurance? Do you have any experience with that?
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm not going to speak to the ESA side of things, but I know for our lease, it's written up that if you have a pet, you're required to have dog bite $50,000 type liability protection on that side of things on your renter's insurance. So yes, for that question, I would definitely say you encourage that, and then that would come through in the form of the renter's insurance. Now, I don't know how to answer that, because if it's an ESA animal, and how you can require it, or if you can't require it. So maybe that's something that I'll have to go find out. Let us know. So that is, we're about time here, man. Anything else you want to say to wrap up?
No, man. I think I'm seeing 14 people watching live right now across platforms is awesome. I think that might be our new record for live. A lot of people watch this afterwards. So if you are watching afterwards and want to catch it live next time, usually somewhere around between 1:15 to 1:30 on Thursdays, we're going live. So hop on, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook, do the Straight Up Chicago Facebook page and Instagram. Is it Straight Up Instagram?
Yep. And then also, if you have comments or questions or topics you want us to talk about, just leave those comments in the recording, in the comments, and we'll catch that. We get notifications, and we'll bring it up the next time. So one thing as a cliffhanger for next time, New York. I think you were on this email I forwarded to the guys over at MBOA. They took on the whole Section 8, source of income, fair housing thing to try to get that, saying that was non-constitutional. So that's something in New York that Yumi can, that could be coming here in Illinois, and I'd be curious to see where that goes. But Yumi can talk about that next time. In the meantime, everyone, thank you for checking this out. Like I said before, if you need property management or just have just general landlord questioning, Tim or myself are always available. If it's something I can't answer, I'll refer you to Tim. If something Tim can't answer or handle for you, he'll refer him back to me. So reach out to one of us. We're very get a holdable, and we'll see you next Thursday.